a moment ago said that Anthropic had been labeled a supply chain risk by the US government. You go a little bit of a step further and say that they've been blacklisted, essentially, and that there will be ramifications to that. Please take it from there.
So I think that there are two things to think about. There's what does this mean for Anthropic specifically, and what does this mean for the broader conversation around AI innovation and the innovators in the American AI sector. For Anthropic specifically, this could certainly have consequences, not only when it comes to their contract with the Department of War, but we saw President Trump post on Truth Social calling for all agencies to stop using this product. And what signal does this send to other, whether it's contractors or other companies that are using Anthropic both here in the US as well as around the world? More generally, for the AI community, there's also likely to be concern about what does this mean that the government's willing to do in terms of stepping in if they don't like the decisions of a particular product? What does this also mean for America's AI leaders when other countries around the world want them to make changes for the government to use their products for things that go beyond what they deem ethical?
In your paper, you cite the great Albus Dumbledore, and you say, as he did at the end of the Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone if you're in America, it takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. Why did you invoke Albus Dumbledore, and what are you trying to say there?
I think when we think about American companies typically standing up to pressure from governments, we're thinking about, will American companies hold true to American values when they're faced with pressure from foreign adversaries, when the Chinese or the Russian government ask them to cross bright lines that violate American values, violate the ideas of civil rights or civil liberties? When Anthropic was faced with similar pressure from the U.S. government, asking it to violate its ethics, to make sure to remove what it felt were necessary ethical safeguards to prevent mass surveillance or the use of its AI in autonomous weapons, it also said no. And that's something that shows a great deal of courage, whether it's standing up to a foreign adversary and understanding the business laws there, but particularly when it's standing up to your own government, knowing that there could, in this case, be very real consequences in the market.
Jennifer, what caught my eye was you were saying this behavior is akin to something we'd expect from the Chinese government. Now, where should the agreements or not go in the future? You at the Cato Institute are all about limited government. But at this moment, there are deep ethical questions about the future of generative AI and its implications for the use in the military and writ large for the labor market. How does this get decided? Should it be a Congress decision? Should it be just a case-by-case decision?
One of the things that makes this situation unique is this goes beyond just a mere dispute over a procurement contract because of those additional threats, the threats to either invoke the Defense Production Act or to label the company a supply chain risk. But I think it does highlight some of the underlying concerns or debates over how should we think about protecting civil liberties and civil rights when it comes to AI use by the government. AI can be used for wonderfully productive ways in the government, just as it can in the private sector, to help constituents find the services they need. But there are also real and legitimate concerns about the way it could be abused. Again, in this particular dispute, two of the issues were mass surveillance and autonomous weapons. One of the places that we need clarity when it comes from policymakers is around what the government's going to do to restrain itself in its use of AI. This will help both citizens and innovators feel more comfortable with the technology, both in the government context and beyond.